Part 4, Chapter 35 of Short History of the Christian Church by John Fletcher Hurst. This LibriVox recording is in the public domain. Chapter 35. The End of the Temporal Power of the Papacy. The old fable of the gift by Constantine of temporal dominions to the pope was repeated as a veracious story for centuries. In the 15th century, Laurentius Valla riddled it through and through, and Roman Catholic scholars have long since given it up. The real foundation of the pope's worldly power was laid by Pepin the Short, reigned 752 to 768, who conquered the Lombard king Aistulf, and ceded the whole exarchate of Ravenna and the Pentapolis, the cities of Rimini, Pesaro, Fano, Sinigaglia, and Ancona, with the lands adjacent, to the pope, Stephen III, 755. This donation Charlemagne solemnly confirmed in 774. And in spite of various vicissitudes and lapses, the temporal sovereignty continued in the hands of the popes till within the present century. The Reformation shook the hold of the pope on the world, and he vainly raged when the Peace of Westphalia, 1648, officially recognized a Christendom outside of the Roman Catholic Church. The principal eclipse was suffered in the latter part of the 18th century, when many of the pope's favorite cities were taken from him, and a republic declared, February 15th, 1798, in the Roman Forum. Thanks, however, to the Congress of Vienna, June 1815, the Papal States were restored, and those old divisions, which were the curse of Italy, perpetuated. Italy became, as Prince Metternich said, only a geographical expression. Even before Louis Philippe was cast out of France, Italy was moved by that revolutionary spirit which, like resistless leaven, was working throughout Europe. A united Italy had been the fond dream of Italy's best patriots. The yoke of the old despotism galled. Even Pius IX at first shared the new liberal feeling, and on ascending the papal throne, in 1846, promised many reforms. The democratic ferment at length carried everything before it in Rome. The pope fled, disguised as a common priest, to Gaeta, near Naples, in 1848, and a republic was declared. And although he was restored to his temporal throne by the bayonets of Napoleon in 1850, this was prophetic of the end. The papal government became intolerable, and Tuscany, Modena, Parma, and Romagna of the Papal States sent representatives to Victor Emmanuel, King of Sardinia and Lombardy, imploring him to annex them to his kingdom. In a happy moment, Cavour, the noble statesman of Italy's new era, suggested to Napoleon that these communities be allowed to appeal to the Poles as to their political relations. The French emperor assented, and, in return for Nice and Savoy, allowed his protege, Pius IX., in spite of his tears and frantic protests, to see his fairest dominions become a part of the growing territory of the House of Sardinia. Events ripened rapidly. In 1860, the States of the Church were in the hands of Victor Emmanuel, the Roman Campagna alone remaining. France still furnished support to what fragment of power was left to the pope. But in the great death struggle with Germany in 1870, she withdrew her troops. On the fall of Napoleon, Victor Emmanuel marched into Rome, and asked the Romans to decide by popular vote whether their city should again take its historic place as the capital of Italy. By an overwhelming majority the citizens overthrew the old papal government, and on July 1st, 1871, the seat of government was removed to the ancient capital. Footnote: The story of the events which led to the unification of Italy is one of the most fascinating pages of modern history, but it belongs rather to the secular field, and is here passed over. It is full of romance and pathos, of suffering and daring." Sic transit gloria mundi. So passed away forever the temporal authority of the Roman Church. The Vatican Palace, with its 11,000 rooms, was given to the pope, and his ample revenues and his spiritual headship guaranteed. In spite of the wailings of Pius over his loss, continued with little abatement by Leo, and repeated everywhere by Catholic bishops and congresses, there can be no doubt that this revolution is really a blessing to the Catholic Church. Disencumbered of the affairs of state, and entangling and annoying political alliances and schemes, it can now devote itself with increased vigor to the vast religious, educational, and missionary enterprises which it has on foot. Chapter 36.